Hey, welcome back, ghouls and goblins. I hope you're having a magical day. Thank you for taking the time to support the channel. I truly appreciate it. My name is Hello Good Game, and I'm pleased to be your host within this Bloomburrow set spoiler video, in which we will discuss all of the latest and greatest cards that have been revealed to us, beginning our theory crafting journey with some discovery, of course, right? This is part 3 in the series. All of the other parts, which you've probably missed, definitely check those out, are conveniently located in a singular playlist. Very easy for you all. Of course, like, comment, subscribe, become a YouTube member, join the community Discord, but most importantly, kick back, relax, and enjoy my breakdown of the newest Bloomburrow spoilers. Starting with Overprotect. 2 mana, instant speed, uncommon in green. Target creature you control gets +3/+3, gains trample, hexproof, and indestructible until the end of turn. Settle down! +3/+3 is pretty good. But now we're going to give it hexproof as well as indestructible? Stop it. That's too much. But hey, you know what? Why not throw trample on it as well? Okay. It's not bad. It's pretty good. And, you know, so in limited, yes, these spells are good. And, well, specifically this one. But we don't see them really played a lot, typically in constructed. So it's nice to see them, you know, kind of turning the volume up on the spells in the game that aren't great. A great example of this, and it's been a commonality in the last couple sets for sure, like a while. Play with fire, Fading Hope. You know, 2 damage for 1, shock. But now you get to scry 1 on it, potentially. Fading Hope, the same thing. So, you know, just adding a little bit of value to these older staple cards, I think is something that we can continue to expect. Specifically, the interaction cards that have the draw a card cantrip. Now, this I'm a big fan of, because typically you're incentivized not to utilize these spells in your deck because you have to put it on the stack. It's got to target one of your creatures. And equipment is a good example of this. An enchantment aura or an instant speed buffer of interaction spell, right? Where it's on the stack and now they can interact with your creature after you've paid mana to do something, right? So typically not great, and it's good to see them get a little bit better because now the risk, you know, is not so negatively skewed because the card is so good that maybe you get away with it and there's a lot of value there, right? So that's my hot take. That's why we're here. We're going to be here a while. We got like 80 cards to go through. This is only number 2. 3 Tree Scribe. 2 mana in green is a 2 power, 3 toughness frog druid. And whenever the 3 Tree Scribe or another creature you control leaves the battlefield without dying, this is a return to hand, you know, an exile and return to battlefield. You're going to put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. You know, that's not terrible. I don't mind. It's, you know, it's an uncommon, of course, but it is the mechanic that is incorporated within, you know, that archetype of Simic frogs. Could definitely make use of this, right? For the common good, 1 green +X at sorcery speed as a rare. Create X tokens that are copies of target token you control. Then tokens you control get indestructible until your next turn. You gain 1 life for each token you control. Huh. Okay. Double X, it makes it a little tricky, right? You know, you're casting this for 3 mana as a minimum for a single token, gaining 1 life. But, you know, maybe you've already got a lot of tokens and that indestructible is what you're looking for. I guess you would already have more tokens in play for that as well and gain more than 1 life. Sorcery speed, too. It's not terrible, though, because you get to create copies of tokens you control. And they're not sacrificing, right? Like, they hang around. So these tokens could be quite valuable. You know, maybe it's not a 1/1 rabbit that you're copying. You know, maybe it's like a very good enchantment that does something. I don't really know off the top of my head here, but It could be like a pretty good top and mid-range card, potentially. Yeah? Let me know what you think of this one in the comments. I'd love your feedback on that. The Harvester... Sorry, my glasses. Harvest Right Host, maybe? I don't know. 3 minutes. He just gives up on it. As a 3/3 rabbit citizen, uncommon, and whenever the host or another rabbit you control enters the battlefield. Man, I'm not a fan of that change, but I understand it. I'll get used to it eventually. If you're unfamiliar, we've changed enters the battlefield to enters. Maybe. I'll get used to it. Anyways, target creature you control is going to get +1/+0 until the end of turn. And when you draw a card, if it's the second time this ability has resolved, you will draw a card afterwards if it's the second time it's resolved. Okay, so when it or another rabbit enters, target creature gets +1/+0. Second time it triggers, draw a card. Well, so that's going to be good and limited. Probably not strong enough for constructed, obviously. But the draw ability, play 2 rabbits, draw a card, right? That's pretty good. Maybe you're even flickering it because it's just like an enters effect. Not bad. Pretty good, right? Anything that can draw cards turn after turn is going to be very good. Valley Floodcaller. This one's kind of wacky. 3 mana, 2 power, 2 toughness, Otter wizard. That is a rare with flash. Look out, kids. And you may cast non-creature spells as though they also had flash. Yep. It's absolutely speechless. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, birds, frogs, otters, rats you control are going to get +1/+1 until the end of turn and untap them. Invasion of Segovia, anyone? So now we're playing, a non-creature based otter deck that can untap all of our creatures each time we cast a non-creature, and the Segovia's backside Leviathan or Kraken will allow us to tap our creatures for mana via Convoke, right? And then, untap them, and then all that mana unlocks, and you can redo it, and they're also going to get +1/+1 each time, and it's a non-legendary. This thing stacks. It's only 3 mana. It's got flash. Yeah, this is just a BEA beautiful card. Truly, maybe one of the best of the set we're looking at right here. Do not sleep on this. Moving on, we have the Balin the Haymaker. 3 mana within Naya. 4 power, 3 toughness, legendary creature, rabbit warrior that is a rare. Tap 2 untapped tokens you control to add 1 mana of any color. Ooh. Tap 3 untapped tokens you control, draw a card. Okay. And tap 4 untapped tokens you control, put 3 +1/+1 counters on Balin, and it's going to get trample until the end of turn. So, a 7/6 with trample is quite substantial for 3 mana. You're going to need a lot of tokens, though, right? 4 untapped tokens. So, maybe we get tokens with vigilance in on this, and we can attack and then tap these tokens, for that last ability, probably during combat, and then the other 2 abilities, depending situationally, most likely on our opponent's turn, right? 3 mana, that's really good value, right? Like, that is doing a lot for 3 mana. 4/3 base stats, not bad. All in all, it is, that ramp is quite useful as well, right? 2 untapped tokens you control just to add mana. It's not like crazy good, but it is still your next step forward, and what would technically be a whole turn, to get that mana. And then, you're to that point now where you can just kind of draw, and then, you're always threatening this last ability potentially on attack. That's a card. Hazard Root Herbalist, 3 mana within green, 1 power, 4 toughness, rabbit druid, uncommon. And whenever you attack, target creature you control gets +1/+0 until the end of turn. If that creature is a token, it also gains Death Touch until the end of turn. It just seems like a lot for 3 mana. It does add quasi-removal to your creatures with the Death Touch, but they most likely, I don't know. Maybe it's good enough. No reach. I'd like to maybe see this have reach, potentially, but nothing special. Stalker, Warlock, 3 mana, 2 power, 2 toughness, Lizard Warlock with Menace, and whenever the Stalker enters, choose target opponent. If they've lost life this turn, they reveal their hand. You choose a non-land card from it. They discard that card. Otherwise, they discard a card. Excuse me? You choose a non-land from it. They discard that card. Otherwise, they discard a card. So if you don't choose a if you choose a land, well, you can't choose a land. If it's all land, they still just have to discard one of them. That's kind of weird wording, isn't it? I mean, I guess. I like this, though. Rodmouth Viper, 6 mana, 6 power, 6 toughness, elemental snake as a mythic, and as an additional cost to cast this spell, you may sacrifice any number of non-land permanents. The spell will cost 1 less to cast for each permanent sacrifice this way. Whenever Rottenmouth Viper enters the battlefield or attacks, which is quite substantial, that ETB/attack is really, really good. Put a blight counter on it, and then for each blight counter on it, each opponent will lose 4 life. And, unless they sacrifice a non-land permanent or discard a card. So this is kind of crazy. You could potentially proliferate these blight counters as well. And the fact that you can reduce its casting costs down to potentially 1 is nice. And, it's a good body, 6/6, with the ETB automatically getting value with a discard, with a sacrifice, and if not, some life. And each player, right? Which is absolutely insano. As far as the value goes. Really, really good stuff here. Stormbreaker. This is a 4 mana Otter wizard with haste, 1 power, 4 toughness mythic. And whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, create a token copy of the Stormbreaker, and then exile those copies at the beginning of your next, the next end step. Hey, thank you so much for the support, homie. Appreciate that. So remember Kiki Jiki, how we were making copies of itself on our opponent's end step because it was past the beginning of the end step on the end of the end step, right? We will want to be doing something similar here with Stormbreaker. And then we're starting our turn, with 2 copies, 3 copies, 4 copies of it, which would be fantastic. Very, very cool stuff to have the multiple 1/4s ready to swing. It does have haste, which is quite nice as well, right? And, we see the other Otter that can give creatures you control prowess or something like this. So, maybe those 1/4s. Even power up, and you had a whole field of them. It's cool stuff. I like this card quite a bit. And then we've got that other Otter with flash, as well. Could be good. Could be good. Sinister Monolith, 4 mana artifact, uncommon. At the beginning of combat on your turn, each opponent loses 1 life, and you gain 1 life. We can tap it, paying 2 life, sacrificing itself to draw 2 cards at sorcery speed. It's 4 mana, so I probably wouldn't be playing it outside of an artifact cost reduction deck or my limited games. Everything's playable in limited. That's what the set's made for. I feel like there's very few things that are like, oh, you cannot play that in limited. It's like, if you get it, and that's what works, Of course, there are some things that are better, but Seasoned Worn Guard, 1 mana, 1 power, 2 toughness, Rabid Warrior, uncommon. Whenever it attacks while you control a token, it will get +2/+0 until the end of turn. That's a 3/2 for 1 mana. A 3/2 for 1 mana potentially is Well, that's constructed playable as far as I'm concerned. Ooh. Patchwork Banner, 3 mana, an artifact, uncommon. As it enters the battlefield, choose creature type. Creatures you control of the chosen type get +1/+1, and you can tap to add 1 mana of any color. Cool beans. You know, a mana rock that is simultaneously acting as a creature lord of your choice is honestly not bad. Like, decent. 2 birds with 1 stone, if you will. Hazel's Nocturne, 4 mana, instant speed, return up to 2 target creature cards from your graveyard to your hand. Each opponent loses 2 life, and you gain 2 life. It's instant speed, which is good. 4 mana is a little pricey. 2 creature cards from your graveyard to your hand. They could take them from your graveyard on the stack, right? And then each opponent loses 2 life. Keyword each opponent. That's what's good here. Not in constructed, obviously. It's a commander thing, but loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. So, yeah. I mean, they're going to your hand, not even to the battlefield. Them losing 2 life is, like, minor. 2 life gained is also very, you know, like, inconsequential. So, meh. The Provisioner, 5 mana, 3 power, 4 toughness with flying. And when it enters, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control without flying. 5 mana. Flyers are really good and limited, though. But, you know, as far as I'm concerned, that's a... Whoops. Worn Elder, 2 mana, 2/2, common, pay 4. Creatures you control get +1/+1 until the end of turn. Not great. I mean, a 2/2 for 2 is really, really just dirt. The mana sink, creatures get +1/+1. Isn't terrible, but, you know, very late game. Mind Spiral, 5 mana, common, sorcery speed within blue. Gift a tapped fish. Target player draws 3 cards if the gift was promised. Tap target creature an opponent controls and put a stun counter on it. Very expensive. Sorcery speed. Draw 3 cards, though. Woo! And potentially slow them down. Thornplate Intimidator, 4 mana, 4 power, 3 toughness with Offspring. 3 is a rat rogue common. When this creature enters, target opponent loses 3 life unless they sacrifice a non-land permanent or discard a card. That's actually not terrible. The loss of life is fairly decent, right? You know, you think of it, we're paying... Lightning Strike is a bit better, you know, in theory, because it can choose any target, planeswalker, creature, or their opponent. But hitting them for 3 is pretty decent when you have a 4/3 for 4, right? Then you think that maybe potentially 2 mana. That would make this a 4/3 for 2 with Offspring 3, which is very expensive, right? That's going to run you 7 mana. But, you know, now we're talking about potentially 6 life. If they don't have anything in play or cards in hand to discard, now you're attacking as well. So there is value there. But again, that's common value, right? That's very good common, but a common nonetheless. Glide Dive Duo, 5 mana, 3 power, 3 toughness, bat lizard, common with flying. When it enters, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. You know, something very similar here where it's, you know, it's not terrible for a common, but why bother? Unless, you know, it's like you're playing limited. Fountainport Bell, 1 mana artifact common. This is, you know, 1 mana artifacts are always interesting. When it enters, search your library for basic land, reveal it, then shuffle, put the land on top, pay 1, sacrifice it, draw a card. You know, it's fine if you're reducing the activation and the casting cost through artifacts, because it is just generic mana, right? So if you're playing it for 0 and sacrificing it for 0, great. But, you know, at a certain point, just who cares? Kindle Spark Duo, 3 mana. This is a 1 power, 3 toughness, lizard otter. And you're going to deal 1 damage to target opponent by tapping it. And whenever you cast a non-creature spell, untap it. Okay, so we've actually seen things like this make constructed decks before. The 0/3 was the one, and then the other one was a 1/3 that didn't have to tap. I forget their names. Something that's really common within sets, and it's really good, right? Definitely not bad. Specifically, if we were, doing the convoke non-creature idea, right? And this is actually kind of like a hybrid creature, right? This is a lizard as well as an otter. So we see the otters kind of going through a prowess spellcasting archetype, and then the lizards are very much a ping-based damage burn kind of archetype. So it's nice that it can fulfill both of those. War Squeak, 1 mana, and enchantment aura, enchant creature. When it enters the battlefield, target creature an opponent controls can't block this turn, and the enchanted creature gets +1/+1 and has haste. Not a big fan. You've got to target your creature. It gives them a chance to remove it on the stack, and then you've got nothing. At least it only costs 1 mana, but it's not drawing us a card or anything. I'm just not too into it. It would be good for the celebration mechanic, the casting multiple spells each turn. Also, we have Valiant as a mechanic in set. Creature becomes target of spell or ability you control for the first time each turn to trigger. So, it fulfills something, but not much. Bushy Bodyguard, 2 mana, 2 power, 1 toughness with Offspring 2 as a squirrel warrior, uncommon. And when this creature enters, you may forage. If you do, put 2 +1/+1 counters on it. That's pretty good. It's going to be a 4/3 for 2. That could potentially make a 3/3 alongside it. That's good. 4 mana, you get a lot of goodies here. So the forage is exiling 3 from your grave or sacrificing a food. And the offspring is you pay the offspring mana, you get a 1/1 copy of it. That's a token. And then, of course, that is an ETB, which would hit that ability to forage, and it could be a 3/3. Which, that's really good. Not bad. So, sometimes these commons will be playable, and I'm sure there's going to be plenty of squirrel decks, right? Rush Shield, Rampager, 4 mana, 4 power, 4 toughness, Raccoon Warrior, common, Offspring 2. This creature can't be blocked, by creatures with power 2 or less. 4/4 for 4 base stats, good. Offspring, additional value, not bad, and a little bit of evasion via its ability. Reptilian Recruiter, 5 mana, 4 power, 2 toughness, Lizard Warrior, common with trample. And as it enters, choose target creature. If that creature's power is 2 or less, or you control another lizard, gain control of that target creature until the end of turn. Tap it, it gains haste until the end of turn. It's a good thing this is so expensive, but this is good, right? Play it, take their best thing. Unfortunately, this itself doesn't have haste. And it gains haste. The creature you take will untap and gain haste. However, this will not, unfortunately. But it is a 4/2 with trample. I like it. That's pretty good. I mean, obviously not constructed playable, but I would play that in my limited decks if I seen it for sure. Jackdaw Savior, 3 mana, 3 power, 1 toughness, Bird Cleric, rare with flying. Whenever it or another creature you control with flying dies, return another target creature card with lesser mana value from your graveyard to your battlefield. This is not terrible. It's like I don't know how to explain it. Reverse Cascade? That's not correct. Cascade's totally something else. But not bad. It's going to be a little bit difficult, though, right? Because you're going to have a nice curve on your deck, right? 1 drops, 2 drops, 3 drops, 4 drops, 5 drops to really make use of this. And you're also, hoping that they don't have any graveyard interaction. But at 3/1 for 3 with flying, and that added recursion is, you could swing it specifically if you were running a bird deck, I think, right? And maybe that cleric subtype is good somewhere as well. Unfortunately, it's a creature with flying dies, and not a lot of clerics have flying, but some do. Paw Patch Recruit, 1 mana within green as a 2 power, 1 toughness rabbit warrior, rare, Offspring 2, trample Whenever a creature you control becomes a target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control other than this creature. Not terrible. You don't really want to be becoming the target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, though. Like, what good is the... Well, it's on another creature, which I guess is the saving grace, right? And it's only 1 mana. And the Offspring's pretty decent. Cast it for 3, right? So, like, I actually like this. It's nice that green's getting some good 1-drops. Llanowar Elves is right around the corner as well within the foundation set. Lunar Convocation, 2 mana, enchantment within Ordeal of Colors. And at the beginning of your end step, if you gain life this turn, each opponent loses 1 life. Furthermore, at the beginning of your end step, if you gained and lost life this turn, create a 1/1 black bat with flying, and then we can pay 2 life as well as 2 mana to draw a card. So, that's not bad. We can forcefully pay life. We also have the shock lands, right? Or not the shock lands, but the pain lands, the 1 damage or whatever. Lose 1 life, I think, is the correct. And then there's plenty of life gain, right? So a good engine, it can create creatures, right? It can deal damage, right? Minuscule. However, it is there and adds up. Non-legendary, you can stack it, which would be best. Oh god, this is kind of like the Anvil almost. I'm getting Anvil vibes from this. It's a rare though. Stacking this would be fantastic. I don't mind it. Ordeal of Bats looks pretty cooked. A lot of the tribal decks look cooked if Sunfall didn't exist. Don't say the word. Valley Mightcaller for 1 as a 1/1 within green is a rare frog warrior that has trample, and whenever another frog, rabbit, raccoon, or squirrel you control enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on the Mightcaller. Pretty good. Definitely not bad. It has trample. It's a 1/1 for 1 that grows turn after turn after turn. Specifically within decks that are making multiple creatures into the battlefield each turn, like rabbits and squirrels really come to mind for that. Kitza, Otterball, Elite, 2 mana within blue is a 1 power 3 toughness, legendary Otter Wizard as a mythic with vigilance, prowess. It can tap to draw and then discard a card. It can pay 2 tap to copy target instant or sorcery spell you control, and you may choose new targets for the copy. Activate only if its power is 3 or greater, which shouldn't be hard because of the prowess. Oh my gosh. It's also an otter, which is phenomenal. These otters are pretty cooked as well. Look how cute he is. I like otters. Fable Passage. What is this, Eldraine? A rare land in which we can sacrifice, grabbing a basic land from our library, putting it into the battlefield tapped, and then shuffling it. If you control 4 or more lands, tap that land, which is fantastic. There's a reason it's rare, and we'll be seeing a lot of this. I like the art. Calamitous Tide, 6 mana, sorcery, uncommon. Wait a minute. And you'll return up to 2 target creatures to their owner's hands and draw 2 cards, then discard a card. That's so expensive. Return up to 2 target creatures to their owner's hands. So for 6 mana, you bounce 2 creatures and draw 2 cards, and then discard 1. Oh, settle down. That's like, I must be missing something there. Heirloom Epic, 1 mana artifact, pay 4, tap it, draw a card. For each mana in this ability's activation cost, you may tap an untapped creature you control rather than pay that mana. Activate only at sorcery speed. That is quite interesting. So you're tapping creatures like you would to convoke, much like the flying soldier does with soldiers, to draw a card. And you don't need all of them. You just can reduce the cost of it. But if you had 4, then you're going to London. That's like pretty good, isn't it? Right? It's worth checking out. These commons, these uncommons, just to be aware. Wind Whisker, 3 mana, 3 power, 2 tough, Bat Wizard, uncommon, and at the beginning of your upkeep, surveil 1 with Threshold. 7 or more cards in your graveyard. Creatures your opponents control will get -1, -0, which is pretty cool if they're running tokens that don't power up, but meh. Yeah. The cliffs. The cliffs. Gain life. Fans gain life. Thieving Otter. 3 mana. 2 power, 2 toughness. Common. When it deals damage to an opponent, draw a card. Whoa! That's a good common. Whenever Thieving Otter deals damage to an opponent, draw a card. It's as simple as that. That's absolutely phenomenal. Charmed Sleep, 3 mana, and enchantment Aura. As it enters, enchant target creature, and you will tap it as well. And then it cannot untap during its untap step. They could manually untap it, but once it retaps, it's locked out again, right? Rabid Bite, 2 mana, sorcery speed within green is a common. Target creature you control will deal damage equal to its power to target creature you don't control. Shouldn't that be at instant speed? Pass. Giant Growth, 1 mana, instant speed. Target creature gets +3/+3 until the end of turn. All right. Flame Lash, 4 mana, instant speed, dealing 4 damage to any target. Not bad, but so expensive. Sword of Vengeance, 3 mana, as an equipment. Equipped creature gets +2/+0 and gains first strike, vigilance, trample, and haste, equipped for 3. Mind Spring for 2+X at sorcery, draw X cards. Colossification for 7. Enchanted creature gets +20/+20 as it enters tapped creature. Sarah Redeemer, 5 mana, flying as a 2/4. Whenever a creature you control with power 2 or less enters, put a +1/+1 counter on it, ×2. Back on track with the Honored Dre Leader. Those last few cards are in the starter decks, not the main set. 3 mana, 1/1, trample. When it enters, put a +1/+1 counter on it for each other squirrel and or food you control. Oh, that could be problematic. And whenever another squirrel or food you control enters, put a +1/+1 counter on it as well. Okay. That's a good one. That's, when we look at these commons and uncommons, you can easily differentiate between ones that are like, okay, that's cooked, or, that's what I'm used to. The Blacksmith's Talent, 1 mana, an enchantment class. When it enters, create a colorless equipment artifact token named Sword. With equipped creature, gets +1/+1 and has equipped 2. We can level it up for 3, and at the beginning of combat on your turn, attach target equipment you control to target creature you control. And finally, level 3 for 4, during your turn, equipped creatures you control have double strike. I mean, that might be worth it, but that just does not seem like enough. The Hoarders Overflow, an enchantment, and when it enters, and whenever you expend 4, spending 4 mana each turn, put a stash counter on it, and we can pay to sacrifice it to discard your hand and then draw cards equal to the number of stash counters on it. Great, but it's a little expensive. No, when it enters, so it goes to 1, and then every time you go to 4, you get 1. I guess because it would allow you to keep expending later. I don't know though. Specifically in what is meant to be, I think, an aggro deck. Like the Gruul Raccoons, I think it's supposed to be pretty aggro/mid-range. Creature-based aggression, not chilling out. Feed the Cycle, 2 mana, instant speed as an uncommon within black, and as an additional casting cost for the spell, forge or pay 1 to destroy creature or planeswalker. Not bad, but I still like Bitter Triumph. I think the discard's a good thing. Change my mind. I love discarding something and then bringing it back, right? Or, the Forsaken Miner just works so good with it as well, right? The Doer Port Mage, 2 mana, Frog Wizard as a rare within blue, 1 power, 3 toughness. Whenever one or more other creatures you control leave the battlefield without dying, draw a card. Nice. We can pay to tap it to return a target creature you control to its owner's hand. Not bad. That's pretty good at dodging single target removal, right? It's an instant speed tap. They're going to go for it. But if you have, it's non-legendary, right? You just got 2 of them, and then I bounce you, you bounce me, and round we go. That's pretty good. I don't mind that. And the fact that it's a draw engine as well is good, right? I hope man, I want all the tribes to be good, not just Otters. Coiling Rebirth as a black 5 mana spell, adds sorcery speed within a rare that has gifted card. So, as you cast it, they're going to draw a card. And then we're going to return creature card from our graveyard to the battlefield if the gift was promised. And the creature is not a legendary. We create a 1/1 token copy of it, which, you know, could be pretty good, right? So, it rotates, but, you know, I'm sure there's something. Titan of Industry was what came to my mind, but like a non-legendary ETB spell of high value, right? This would be great. Builder's Talent, 2 mana, an enchantment class. When it enters the battlefield, create a 0/4 wall with Defender, level 2 for 1. Whenever one or more non-creatures, non-land permanents you control enter, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Finally, 3 for 5. When it becomes level 3, return target non-creature, non-land permanent from your graveyard to the battlefield, which is actually pretty decent. I don't mind. The 0/4 for 2 is not great. Leveling it up to 2 is quite cheap, and, you know, that's going to be easy to do. We don't mind that. And then the, you know, level 3 is just a bonus that you typically already have to pay 5 for. Could be worse. Could be better, though. Link Roll for 3 is an artifact vehicle with vigilance as a uncommon. Pay 3, tap it, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. And then you can tap 2 untapped tokens you control to have it become a creature until the end of turn as a 6/6. Woo! That's a big boy. The vigilance there is quite nice too. Teapot Tossers, 4 mana, a raccoon warrior with menace, and whenever you expend 4, you'll deal 2 damage to each opponent. Oh, yeah. I mean, a little expensive, of course, for 4, but you're looking to typically expend 4 within the Grow Raccoons as well. So, you know, I think it's kind of fitting that role there. Playful Push, 2 mana within red as an uncommon at sorcery, dealing 1 damage to any target. Draw a card. Huh. 1 damage. I guess you gotta... That's pretty good, right? Draw a card. My favorite 3 words in this game. Draw a card. Shielder looks at you from across the battlefield. What was that? Damn it. You know, I think maybe this could be good, though. This is new for me. Oops. Rabid Response, 4 mana, instant speed. Creatures you control get +2/+1 until the end of turn. If you control a rabbit, scry 2. Like, that's going to help. I mean, but it's expensive. Maybe this is your kill shot, though. Banishing Light, a reprint we all love for 3, an enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, exile target non-land permanent and opponent controls until it leaves the battlefield. And the Night Howl Hermit, 3 mana, 1 power, 4 toughness, rat rogue, common with vigilance, threshold. 7 or more cards in your graveyard. It's going to get +1/+0 and can't be blocked. The can't be blocked is always quite good. And then the 4 toughness with the vigilance is good to defend as well. Nocturnal Hunger, 3 mana, instant speed. Gift the food, destroy target creature. If the gift wasn't promised, you lose 2 life. Oh, I'll lose 2 life every single day. Food tokens don't really matter, though, if you're a control deck. Specifically if they're not using artifacts in any way. Maybe you gift the food. That's going to be up to you, right? Specific, like, different matches will require different things. Agate Assault, 3 mana, sorcery. Choose one of the 2. 4 damage to target creature. If that creature would die, exile instead. Thank you very much. Or exile target artifact. It's like a big boy Abrade, but, you know, big difference there is Abrade is at instant speed. This is not. Whisker Quill Scribe, 2 mana, 2 power, 2 toughness. Mouse Citizen as a common with Valiant. First time it's a target of a spell or an ability you control. Draw a card. Now that draw a card is quite nice. Each Valiant trigger is different, but requires the same process to trigger. We love to draw. The Baker's Bane Duo, 2 mana, 2 power, 2 toughness. As it enters, create a food, and whenever you expend 4, it will get +1/+1 until the end of turn, which, you know, that's like not good at all. Creating a food when it enters might be worthwhile. Sticky Tongue Sentinel, 3 mana, 3 power, 3 toughness, as a frog warrior, common with reach, and when it enters, return other target permanent you control to its owner's hand. Interesting. Interesting. Frogs be bouncing. Right? They are kind of bouncy when you think about it. 3 tree mascot, 2 mana as a shapeshifter artifact creature, common, 2 power, 1 toughness with changeling, and will pay 1 to add mana of any color, activate only once each turn. Sure. I mean, like mana fixing, I guess. Keen-eyed curator, 2 mana, rare, within green as a raccoon scout, 3 power, 3 toughness. As long as there are 4 or more cards among card types, 4 or more card types among cards exiled with the curator, sorry, it's going to get +4/+4 and have trample. Excuse me, did you just say +4/+4? This, for 2 mana, is becoming a 7/7 with trample? Holy, settle down, Larry. 1 mana to exile a card from a graveyard. That is absolutely fantastic. Who printed this? What? It's also non-legendary. Dang. Starscape Cleric, 2 mana. A Bat Cleric, uncommon, 2 power, 1 toughness with Offspring, 3 flying. This creature can't block, and whenever you gain life, each opponent loses 1 life. Hey, that's not bad. Starforged Sword, 4 mana, equipment, artifact. Gift a tapped fish when it enters. If the gift was promised, attach it to a creature you control, which is probably worth it. Crypt creature gets +3/+3 and loses flying. What the? That's a heavy sword, bro. I love this art. Oh my gosh. That is probably the best thing about this set. Dang, bro. Scavenger's Talent, 1 mana, enchantment class. And whenever 1 or more creatures you control die, create a food token. Wow, Cauldron's Familiar would like a word. Are you kidding me? Cauldron's Familiar is going to eat this card up. And then we can level it to 2 for 2. Whenever you sacrifice a permanent, target player mills 2 cards. I'm going to be sick. Pay 3, level it to 3. At the beginning of your end step, you may sacrifice 3 other non-land permanents. If you do, return creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield with a finality counter on it. Fine. That's ridiculous. That is simply too much. Too much tuna. Eluge the Shoreless Sea, 4 mana, triple blue on this as a mythic legendary elemental fish. Power and toughness, each equal to the number of islands we control, and when it enters or attacks, put a flood counter on target land. It now becomes an island in addition to its other types for as long as it has said counter. The first instant and sorcery you spell cast each turn costs 1 blue or generic, less to cast for each land you control with a flood counter on it. Pretty cool. You know, it's going to immediately get you 1. It doesn't have flash. You'll attack, it goes to 2, but still, that's fine. And, you know, we've seen how well the Haughty Djinn can do, and this only costs 1 more mana, and, you know, is potentially a higher ceiling. No flying, I guess, is a bit of a bummer, but, you know, you just throw 1 of these in that deck, maybe 2 if you're feeling fishy. Ordeal of Calamity, 1 mana plus X sorcery as a rare. Reveal the top X cards of your library. For each card type, you may exile a card of that type from among them, and the rest will go into the graveyard. You may sacrifice... Sorry, you may cast... Where did you get that word from? There's a lot of text here, and I'm so far away. Sorry, you may cast... Sorry, you may put the rest into your graveyard, and you may cast a spell from among the exiled cards without paying their mana cost. If you exiled 4 or more cards this way, then put the rest exiled into your hand. Okay, I've got to read. What is happening here? Reveal the top X cards of your library. Fantastic. For each card type, you may exile a card of that type from among them. Fantastic. Put the rest into your graveyard. Great. And you may cast spells from among the exiled cards without paying their mana cost. If you exiled 4 or more cards this way, put the rest of the exiled cards into your hand. What do you mean the rest? If you cast 4 or more? Just if you exiled 4 or more. So if you exile 4 or more, they all go into your hand? Maybe I need a little bit more clarification on this. Hit me up in the comments. Reveal the top X of your library. For each card type, you may exile a card of that type. right? And then the rest go into your graveyard. So you get 1 card of each type. And then you can cast spells from exiled of those card types for free. But if you exile 4 or more cards this way, then you put the rest of the exiled cards into your hand. Wouldn't you rather cast them all for free? Because it says you may cast, singular. You may cast a spell. Oh, there's my holdup. It's a singular cast, and then the rest go into your hand. So you only get 1 free cast. I was going to say, this is absolutely donkey, dude. I have trouble with comprehension. Give him a minute. Give him a minute. Blooming Blast, 2 mana, instant speed, gift of treasure. Blooming Blast will deal 2 damage to target creature. If the gift was promised, it will also deal 3 damage to that creature's controller for a treasure. Oh, you don't like to ramp them, but we've got the Generous Plunderer, which can punish treasures. Maybe there's something there. Fountain Port as a land. This is a rare that taps for generic. It can pay 2 tap to sacrifice a token, drawing a card. It can pay 3 tap to pay 1 life, creating a 1/1 blue fish. And then furthermore, it can pay 4 to tap to create a treasure. The Tortoise will reduce the mana cost of those abilities as well. And they're good. Pretty decent, dude. Festival of Embers, 5 mana, enchantment as a rare within red, and during your turn, you may cast instant and sorcery spells from your graveyard by paying 1 life in addition to their cost. If a token or card would be put into your graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. So you have to have a full graveyard before you start doing this, because once you have this, they're all just going to go to exile. Furthermore, we can pay 2 to sacrifice it, so that stops happening if we run out of graveyard. So expensive. It's 5 mana. In what world? You know? Gev, Scaled Scorch, 2 mana, legendary creature, Lizard Mercenary, 3 power, 2 toughness within Rakdos colors. Ward, pay 2 life. Other creatures you control enter the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on them for each opponent who lost life this turn. If you could ping each opponent for 1, and then this. Oh, yeah. Something Kumano. Or, I mean, I'm sure there's other things, right? Whenever you cast a lizard spell, Gev's going to deal 1 damage to target opponent, which is also fantastic. I like the lizard ping-based burn deck as well. I hope it gets lots of support. Looks fun. The Tree Guard Duo, 4 mana, 3 power, 4 toughness. And when it enters until the end of turn, target creature you control gains vigilance and gets +X/+X, where X is the number of creatures you control. Decent, but nothing to write home to mom about. Druid of the Spard, 3 mana, 2/3, Rabbit Druid, common, within green, and as long as you control a token, the Druid will get +2 and trample, which is actually pretty good. Elena's Pathmaker, 4 mana, 4 power, 2 toughness, Otter Wizard. This is a common. When it enters, exile the top card of your library. Until the end of your next turn, you may play that card. And that's actually pretty good for a common, Bellowing Crier, 2 mana, Frog Advisor, common, 2 power, 1 toughness within blue. When it enters, draw a card, then discard a card. Not terrible. Eddimer Crab, 7 mana, 5/5, Elemental Crab, uncommon with flash, costing 1 less to cast for each instant and sorcery in your graveyard. It will enter tapped if it's not your turn. No flash blocks, thank the Lord. And when it enters, tap 2 target creatures, but it also can really slow you down there for that tempo defense play, and maybe even open up those attack lanes because it's a 5/5. And then, ladies and gentlemen, we are back to Overprotect. Around and round we go through the carousel of cards. Finishing up video 3 of our Bloomburrow spoilers. Very much looking forward to theory crafting. I think we've got about 40 cards left to reveal, so we're basically done. We'll get everything wrapped up in one more video, and then theory crafting for the early access event, and then, of course, it goes live in Arena as a whole for everyone on the 30th, so mark your calendars, buckle up. Of course, Thank you for your time and attention. I truly appreciate it. So like, comment, subscribe, become a YouTube member, join the community Discord, but most importantly, have an absolute magical day, and I'll see you soon in the next.